Ok guys, este video va a estar relacionado en la herramienta nueva que estamos trayendo de Cima y la que hemos visto. Ya trajimos la vez pasada esta, que es la marca Mirka. Es muy buena, muy eficiente, nomás que está muy cara. Pero la otra que conseguimos, al parecer, es un poquito más económica. Parece que ser mejor, pero no sabemos. No la hemos tratado. Ahorita vamos a tratar de ver a ver qué tal funciona. Pero para los que trabajan en esta industria automotriz, lo que es colisión, esto es muy bueno, se los recomiendo. No tiran una polvadera, no hay polvo por donde quiera. Se conserva un poquito más limpio el lugar. Lo pueden hacer dentro de su garage, donde quiera que estén. Ahí pueden utilizar esta herramienta, pero lo importante es ver el funcionamiento. Tiene DJ, tiene block, tiene bastantes accesorios. Puedes comprarle más accesorios. La lija, te ahorras mucho material. Bando, o sea, es muy eficiente. Entonces, quiero que le pongan atención y de ahí vamos a basarnos a ver cuál de las dos funciona.
You have basically three. Okay, first, the most important one is going to be your health. Health and safety, that's the most important one, your lungs. I've actually conducted classes to show, how for body shops, how they can recoup on the investment for vacuums, where the average body shop has, I think the last time I checked was 6 technicians, and then we just did a basic math formulation. The average person calls in sick 4 times a year. So figure out what you're paying your technician, and you can just do the basic math. If it's, let's say $20, $25 an hour, just hypothetically, that person calls in 4 times a year, you multiply it times 6, your vacuum is paid for. Okay. The other benefit is that your sandpaper consumption, depending on the product, the whole configuration, which we'll talk about, you're going to save maybe anywhere from 10 to 20% per consumption.
Rather than using the regular DA or
just going solid, yeah. And the reason why is
it absorbs
it's not
the media away.
Yeah, it's not loading. Not loading up. Now you have different hole configurations. You might see, some products like on 6-inch. Common configurations are 6-hole, maybe 9. Over in Europe, they're using 15 is common. And then, you get more multi-hole. So what we do, I'll grab this piece for you. We have a couple options, but as far as for our Ultravent is in the pad, okay? It's a slotted vacuum pad, and it's going to create a Venturi. Okay, so it's basically like how I put it, it's like adding a turbocharger to your vacuum system.
Oh, okay.
You're getting more volume coming in. So it's, people, what they're doing is they're just basically taking a multi-hole disc and they're slapping it on and they're not lined up. They're getting some blockage points. Why would you do that? You wouldn't want to block like your exhaust on your intake on your car. What? So what we're doing here is just line up one hole with one slot and you're good to go. You got 100% extraction there, okay? No blockage points. So it's one of those things to where you're getting consistent, extraction right to the vacuum source. All right. The other thing, when you do have some blockage points too, you're gonna, you might see some loading areas there. Now, at some point, depending on the substrate, the coating, there might be some loading, but we're gonna reduce the loading effect there for you. But when we're looking at getting the most out of our vacuum, you put the money in the investment, you want to get the most out of it for the extraction. The other benefit is that now you don't have dust going through the shop, okay? You have a truck right there with the windows open, the back glass is off, okay? So dust is going into that. Now you have to pay a detailer or something like that, extra time to clean up that car. Let's say they miss it, the customer gets in the car, they got dust or whatever, making you look bad, okay? So you have less time of that. You have this beautiful paint booth here, dust going into there, okay? We have products to do for cutting and buffing, for denibbing and stuff. We'd love to, do that, but we're trying to reduce your consumption of product and keep you the most productive, most efficient, so you can, produce more, get more cars through the booth, out the door. So if you can reduce the dust going into the booth, then gonna reduce dust in your paint job, reducing the cutting and buffing process. Car just gets maybe clean, out the door, on to the next one. So you're increasing your efficiency, productivity. Okay.
This guy's came out here. We met him at SEMA. Every year, the whole purpose of us going to SEMA is to improve our equipment. These guys are explaining your product. Basically, it's a very beneficial product that takes care of your customer, takes care of your health, and most importantly, pretty much it will pay off itself. Good stuff. It reduces the material, and like I said, the whole purpose of it is to improve every year, to improve our quality of paint. We're preventing from dust going into the paint, paint booth, etc. You name it. So that's the whole goal. These guys are, as y'all hear, they're explaining every little detail how it's gonna benefit you guys that have body shops, or as y'all can see, you know, if a lot of people come over here, that y'all can see that we do good quality work.
Pues estos son los beneficios que tienen, ya se los dijeron, es bien importante, nosotros no lo traemos por querer traer algo fancy, lo que queremos es cuidar a nuestros clientes, cuidar el vehículo del cliente, cuidar nuestro taller, cuidar nuestro paint booth, cuidar todo el sistema de pintura, que no le caiga el polvo. Cuando estás mixeando, todo el polvo se va adentro del material, entonces aunque tengas buenos coladores, aún así el polvo, las partículas de polvo caen, te pueden producir fish eyes, te pueden producir varias cosas que te afectan dentro de la pintura. Entonces es por eso que estamos tratando de traer mejor equipment, más económico, y para que ustedes les convenga en el futuro.
If y'all guys have a body shop, or y'all do, you know, and your garage too, you know, you could do this in your garage. You're preventing a lot of dust coming in, and your product is going to come out better. But like for us, our importance is to better our quality in paint.
Vamos a hacer unas pruebas ahorita para que vean cuál es el beneficio, qué es lo que te protege, qué es lo que te ayuda. La lija, el beneficio de la lija, el beneficio del blog, del DJ, todo lo que trae para que ustedes lo puedan usar. O sea, esto lo hago para que todos los que tengan body shop o que hagan dentro de su garage trabajo, no hagan una polvadera. O sea, ustedes guarden todo en una vacuum. Todo esto es lo que vamos a hacer ahorita y vamos a empezar a darle.
We recommend to clean the surface before we start sanding.
So what do you do? I mean, this is the damage.
Yep.
All right. So what is the second step?
Second step is going to be to clean the substrate, because we don't want to get contamination into where we're sanding. That's the first step.
What kind of cleaner you can use?
You can use wax and grease remover. That's the preference, you know.
Preferably.
Yeah. Soap and water is always good too but wax and grease remover.
Wax and grease remover, como dicen. Puedes usar lacquer thinner, puedes usar agua. Lo único que tienes que hacer es, no sabemos de dónde venga el carro, a lo mejor viene el aceite de algún otro contaminante, que eso es lo que tienes que evitar, que no haya alguna contaminación en la lámina, en el material. Al aplicar el bando, si lo aplicas en un área donde hay grasa o algo, está contaminada, desde ahí viene el problema. Después viene el comeback, después viene, no sabes si fue el bando, fue la pintura, fue el primer, muchas cosas. Entonces, por eso él está pidiendo que se descontamine la.
What's it all include, bro?
So the vacuum is going to include the hose here, okay? So this is going to be for the integrated air line, and you're going to have the Y splitter, and as far as you're going to have a polyester fleece bag that's inside, and that's going to be your main filter, okay? And you have two cartridge filters here. Then you're going to have this sensor here, which is basically a level sensor. If you're extracting, we would say liquids, but a lot of people, if they get a bar that's got water that's from the glass being broken or something like that, you can go ahead and extract the water and glass. Just take the filter out first. And the other thing too with the vacuum is you're going to notice that it's got three lights here. So we put this, it's plugged in right now. So automatic. Or so when you put the demand, just waiting to get the Teflon there, but put the demand on the sander, that it's going to kick on the vacuum. So right now the vacuum is technically on, it's ready to go, but it's waiting for the demand for air to come through. The other option is just to put it in manual mode. So right now you have it for you're doing like a block, the block sander. So what you're hearing right there is the purge. That purge is going to be the auto clean feature. So what it's doing is those cartridge filters, they have two diaphragms, and when that's purging, it's blasting clean air right through those cartridge filters. Okay. So it's basically like it never loses suction. You've heard that in some other commercials with some vacuum stuff like that. So it's blasting that air, so it's basically keeping that amount of extraction consistent throughout the repair process. The other thing though you're seeing is that you have two air outlets. So you have the Y splitter, so you can run two sanders at the same time. Okay, so you have technicians going from side to side. They can run two air sanders at the same time, or if you want, you have an electrical outlet. So we do have electric sanders, and you can plug one electric sander in, one run air, or one block. So you can still have two technicians at the same time. The other thing we've seen some people do, they'll have, I know you talked about finer grits, so they might have a body sander, and then another sander for finishing, so on the smaller orbit.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Que lo use cuando él quiera y lo puedo poner manual.
Hay dos funciones.
Hay dos funciones.
Okay.
The other thing too I didn't mention about the vacuum, the size of it. It's a 45 liter 12 gallon, okay, for the conversion. So in this, portable, it weighs about 30 pounds, but it's got 12 gallon capacity for you.
Okay.
So we have 80 grit, Ultravent, and this is our HT line. This is our premium line. So premium grains, blue fired stone, and it's got a special coating on it. So it'll give you an anti-clog coating, so it's going to last longer, not clog up. And over time, actually, the disc will actually change color as a wear indicator that you're sanding properly or improperly. It's one of those things to where, we see technicians, a lot of times they're using a sander, which we might have to do for certain applications, almost like a grinder, and they're just doing the outside edge.
Yeah.
So that'll show like red, and that's indicating that obviously if we're on a flat surface, you don't want to be holding it like a grinder. It's a good indication also too if you see clean discs on the floor like this, or you see red, you know that one's been used, one's not.
Okay, gotcha.
So to give you an idea of what we'd be looking like for no vacuum, comparison-wise, for dust. Oh, lots of it. Now, take this. Go ahead. You want to try it?
Pues esto es bien importante, ¿sí veo? Casi no hay corte.
La diferencia entre usando la vacuum y no usando.
Hay mucha diferencia, o sea, el polvadero no está respirando el polvo, todo esta es bien importante, o sea, sí vale la pena. So the vacuum is only when you put here work and stop.
Correct. Same thing with electric. So when you plug in the electric, I mean, even if you have an electric tool to plug in, you plug it in, and as soon as you kick the power, if it senses that power, it's going to do the same thing.
You got a special sensor there?
A special what?
Sensor?
Yeah. So it's basically it's almost like just like a check valve, if you want us to call it that. Once it feels the open up, that it'll kick on the motor. Same thing with the electric. It's seeing that electric current go through like a switch, just to kick on the vacuum.
Automático chingón. Ahorro de energía.
Yeah, and as far as for, so people ask about, the noise level, the sander is basically more,
More, yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
your memory serves me right, 67 decibels when it's running, and then when it purges, 70 decibels. So, I mean, it's very, very low, the decibel rate in there.
So, ya se le elijó, se le hizo federación. Esta es la federación que debe llevar antes de aplicar el bando. Metal, sealer, primer, pintura y no clear. So, no puedes echar encima el bando, tienes que irlo por partes para que la federación empalme. Un buen bodyman sabe que es una federation. So, así tiene que estar.
¿No están robando tú?
Yo voy observando para que veamos la línea. La idea es ver si la absorbe más que aquella. Aquella es más fuerte.
¿Esta no viene con carro?
Sí, viene con carro. Nada más que ahorita pues nomás la traigo un papel.
También aquí es automática, le pone el botón para que le puse al EA, trabaja. Y también trae directo cuando usa los otros bloques que no son EA.
Ajá. Aquí te da otro spray.
¿Otro qué?
Otro spray. Otro de estos. Pero es que esta es más económica que la mía. Mira que es carísima. Si esta hace la misma función.
Para lo que dicen que es un poco mejor.
¿Eh? ¿Cuál?
Esta.
Sí, eso es lo que estamos tratando de ver.
So the vacuum itself, everything you see here, it is sold individually, but the vacuum itself comes with the integrated air line vacuum hose, okay, the Y splitter, and it's going to come with the filters. If you'd like to, though, you can buy the cart, okay, to load up. And then as far as what we see, that now you're just rolling the cart to the car, not moving everything, you know, the car to everything else. The other thing too is you have the options for different sanders. So you have 2 different strokes for the air sanders. If you want a body sander or you want a finishing sander, same thing with electric. If you want an electric body sander, electric finishing sander, and then we also offer 2 different blocks: a 7.5 inch block and a 16 inch block. So everything though, you know, as far as you want to build a kit, just, you know, reach out to your local distributor and then you can add everything up, and then we can go ahead and make the recommendations for all the fit-ins and so forth.
Yeah. Cool.
So, little tip on body filler. We don't do it in the States, but over in Europe, we do Evercoat. Turn this on the manual mode, the M. Okay, so you're gonna hear the vacuum kick on. Oh, we lose power. Oops, sorry, there we go. Okay, so you're gonna have the suction coming through here, and then this will, right to that. This does have, let me talk to the sound. This does have a little regulator here, because what happens is you're gonna be fighting it if you got too much extraction. So we would go ahead and sand this, and we might need to crack this open, might have to close it. You can adjust it as needed, and that's just to allow your hand and block to move smoothly. So it does come with that, okay? So you might need to adjust that. Okay, go ahead. And then what I'm gonna do over time, in a little bit, I'm gonna turn off the vacuum so you can see the difference in the dust.
La diferencia.
Keep sanding. Just keep sanding it.
La diferencia.
So you see all your dust now. Within 10 seconds, all that's up. Turn it back on. Keep going.
Save money.
No clogging.
Yeah.
The finer grits, that's the one that'll start to, you know, turn a little reddish. But the 80, 180, it's a little tough to get that one really to die out. It's just the grain is. This is what this product we call the marathon runner, okay? Because the grain's going to fracture at such a slow rate. So you have with abrasives, you have ones that are going to be more of the sprinter of the group. They're going to cut really fast, but then they're going to die off. Then you have ones that are going to be more of the marathon runner. It's going to fracture at such slow rate, so it keeps a sharp cutting edge throughout the sanding process for a longer time.
This is our dry guide coat. You're going to want to run it all over the surface.
Porque muchos usamos spray can black. So, para no usar el spray can black,
Es una guía para ver cómo
es una
está.
guía para que veas dónde está hundido, dónde no le falta el sanding. So, check it out.
The benefit of going to the dry with the powder is that you're getting into every little nook and cranny, okay? The other thing too, you're ready to sand. You don't have to wait for anything really to flash off. The big thing that we've seen throughout the years, there has been an influx of guide coat. And back in the day when I started, you don't use guide coat for highs and lows. But what we've been seeing is that guide coat really can be used for your sand scratches. That's really, you cannot pick up those with your naked eye. So wherever you see the black powder, that means you have a low spot, keep sanding, and that's going to be your guide that once it's removed, that you're good. But you get sand scratches in your primer and so forth, if you didn't use guide coat, that's typically from a user error, a prep error, which is going to reflect right into your paint.
And you can see like paint holes.
Right, exactly, pinholes. And I use it on my clear coat. You know, you can get out your 15, 2,000 grit sand scratches that you're not really paying attention to, that you're going to have to go back after you buff it and realize, oh man, there's still a scratch there, or there's a pigtail or something like that you don't catch. It'll show you that.
So we can go ahead and keep working this. Obviously, we saw that big low stopper for demonstration purposes. We can get rid of the guide coat. Okay, we have still 80, which we can keep working, or you can go to 180, so we can show we remove those 80 grit scratches. For demonstration purposes, we'll use the 180 if that's okay.
That's cool.
For a visual, if you could, we'll get rid of some of this dust first.
Oh yeah, that way it looks the difference.
Sometimes I'll run across the guide coat too, just to get whatever's extra left over, so it doesn't clog or.
Yep. Yeah. So we got now 180 on this.
You can see with the guide coat, you're still missing your 80 grit sand scratches, even with the 180 still. So you know where you still have to hit and pay attention to make sure you get all those out, so you're not leaving them in there. microscopic pinholes that you're not going to see until it's already painted. Some of that might cover with primer, but
Something would not affect the primer because sometimes you use the spray can, you affect the primer, the paint. Because I don't know what kind of spray can you use. The problem is come back to face size or something like that.
yeah.
I mean, actually the vacuum is the block because I know it costs more for the dark or stuff.
We don't sell it directly to the end user.
Yeah.
You know, as far as for, I mean, there are distributors that are online. There's, you know, people can, you know, do a search, check your local distributor, and they'll get you really the pricing. That's the best way to go about it. Stuff like that. So there's a lot to do with cleanliness of the actual the panel that you're sanding. You want to make sure that thing is squeaky clean. You want to not really touch the disc with your hands. Also, don't touch the panel with your hands. You wouldn't do that before you paint it because you have natural oils that can clog. The grain is, I mean, the grain is so small and it's so compacted together, so it can get rolled up very easily. So the cleaner that you have both things, the longer this is going to last. Okay. So we got 800 grit on here. The other thing too, which I put on here, we have two interface pads. So you're seeing this disc has 57 holes on it. Okay, so it's lining up with the slots. Same backing pad we were using with the Corsa grits, which has 21 holes, but we have two interface pads. One's a 10 millimeter, then I put on a 5 millimeter because we're dealing with a lot flatter surface here. But if we were doing in here, I probably would do the 10. The benefit of going to the thicker pad is that you're going to get a shallower scratch. So when you're pressing down, you know, you don't want to be pressing down, but you want to, you know, on these edges, you don't want to burn through. So that can help alleviate the burn through areas. But for flat areas, I just do the 5 millimeter. But yeah, one hole, one slot, you're lined up either way with either hole configuration. Another thing I do see people doing, they'll start the sander off the panel, and you don't want to do that. So make sure it's on the panel first and then start sanding. We got a little bit of pigtail in there, so we had some gunk that I saw in there, but you know, that has a lot to do with cleanliness again. But yeah, as far as for going to a finer grit for your painters, and then you know, not having the dust, we take this off. You're not going to see as much dust, but you'll go ahead and see it. See it instantly.
So one other thing, I don't know if you've mentioned this before, for the hole configuration, if you look at the size of the holes, depending on the grit, it's going to be either smaller or bigger. So if you've got 80 grit, which you've got bigger grit, your holes are going to be bigger so that it actually travels faster.
You're
removing faster. Where you've got here, you've got 800, so your holes are still it's going to travel through just and keep your paper nice and clean.
Another thing too that we'll recommend is, I don't have a towel with me, but we would wipe this as we go, and so we're getting rid of any of the residual dust that can, you know, get some pigtails. The other thing too you have to look at, when we see the fine grits like 1,000 or 1,500 when we're doing your cutting and buffing, you have to remember, we were talking about wet sanding earlier. If you get that dirt nib, okay, and you don't have vacuum on here, you get that dirt nib, it's got to go somewhere. It's typically going to go in your sandpaper. When you're wet sanding, you used to sometimes you know, so it's no different than dry sanding, but so the vacuum's going to help, you know, get rid of some of that dust. But there are some dirt nibs that are just too big that they're going to get in there, and it's going to start to pigtail.
This is 800, right?
Yep. Yeah, I can even try it. Jeans are dirty, but we can try even keep going to see if we got rid of that dust there.
Could you explain to them the difference in the hole design from ours to everybody else?
The multi-hole, yeah, I did that earlier.
The way that it's
the Venturi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was in the Ultravent with creates a Venturi like a turbocharger for the vacuum. So you see there's no more pigtails. We cleaned it up, got rid. So the disc is still usable, it's not loaded up. It's just, once again, the process, how to keep the panel clean, keep the disc clean, and you're really, if the panel is very clean and you're just trying to remove your orange peel, you know, just prepping it for paint, or you could blend panel or something like that, this is going to last quite a long time.
Actually, this $800, the 800 sandpaper is for blend or for reclear.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Actually, because 800 or 1,000, is for blend or for wrinkle.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. So that's the other thing too. What we're seeing in the industry is that for these finer grits, you're not seeing much for the multi-hole configuration. But you know, I've seen some 6-inch with maybe like 6-hole and stuff. I'm sure there's going to be more that's going to come out throughout fruition. But with the multi-hole design, you're getting better extraction. And the other thing too, I haven't seen an interface pad out in the market yet that has the multi-hole. So now you have interface pads, backing pads for your finer grit.
So what pad is better for buck? For sand for buck?
For buck? So we would use the vacuum with, it depends on how much sand. Orange peel or a lot of dirt and so forth, we would go with maybe 1,000 and then step it up to 12 to 1,500. Ultimately end in 1,500 with the interface pad, and then we have a 3,000 that's dry. All dry sand sections.